All right, people, another day, another math lesson. Try to keep this one quick. I'm just going to go through a couple example problems. We're going to be doing another day of adding, subtracting fractions, but today, purely going to be focusing on adding and subtracting mixed numbers. So I'm going to go through 4 examples, and hopefully using these, you can complete today's work fairly successfully. So mixed numbers, remember, are fractions that are mixed. They have a whole number part to them and a fraction part to them. So 19 and 6/8, for example, is a mixed number because it's got a whole number, 19, and a fraction, 6/8. So when you are adding or subtracting mixed numbers, one of the things that I had suggested before, and I'll suggest again, is to rewrite the problem, but stack it vertically up and down so that your whole numbers are lined up and your fractions are lined up. You do not have to do that. It might be a helpful way to visualize the problem, so I will rewrite it on the right side of my screen just in case. So 19 and 6/8 minus 16 and 3/5. So hopefully you remember the key to any addition or subtraction of fractions is having common denominators. So what's a common denominator between 8 and 5? What can both of those numbers turn into? So go through your multiples if you want, or you could just multiply the eighths by 5 and the fifths by 8. That's the quickest way, but you could also try to see if they have a lower number in common than that. Here, the lowest number they have in common is 40, so that's going to mean for this first fraction, you need to multiply everything by 5. And for this second fraction, you need to multiply everything by 8. So my first fraction, I'm going to just put a line here and rewrite it on the right side of this line, is going to be 19 and 30 over 40. 6 times 5 is 30, 8 times 5 is 40. So that's where that fraction came from. And the second fraction is going to be 24 over 40. 8 times 3 is 24, and 5 times 8 is 40. And now, some simple subtraction. Remember, you subtract your fractions and then your whole numbers. So my fractions is 30/40 minus 20/40. Well, when you subtract those two, 30 minus 24 is 6, and the denominator remains 40ths. And then the whole numbers, 19 minus 16 is 3, so there is your final answer. Best practice is to make sure that you have simplified your fraction. So 6 over 40, both of those numbers can be divided by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 40 divided by 2 is 20. So your best possible simplified answer is 3 and 3/20. Cool. I want to do another subtraction example because sometimes the subtraction doesn't work so well. If you remember, sometimes you have to borrow. This will be one of those examples. I've got 19 1/4 minus 15 2/3. So the first thing I need to do is I need to come up with common denominators. For this first fraction, I'm going to multiply everything by 3, and this one I'm going to multiply everything by 4. And I'm going to rewrite on the right side of my screen. So 19 and 3/12 minus 15 and 8/12. Hopefully you see where these fractions came from. That's just I multiplied the first one by 3 and the second one by 4. So here, the subtraction is not going to work, right? 3/12 minus 8/12. 3 minus 8 you can't do. And don't be that guy or gal who writes, oh, 3 minus 8 is 5. No, that's 8 minus 3. 3 minus 8, can't do it. So, to help me out, I'm going to make my first fraction, the 3/12, I'm going to make this one bigger. And I do that by borrowing. I'm going to borrow 1 from the 19, which turns it into an 18. And I took 1 away from the 19. 1 whole is the same thing in fraction form as 12/12. So the 1 whole that I took from the whole number, I'm going to add to the fraction. So the 3/12, I'm going to add 12/12 to it. So this 3/12 is going to become, I'll rewrite the whole problem. This is going to be 19 and 15/12. Where'd that 15/12 come from? 12/12 plus 3/12 is 15/12. And actually, I made a mistake. It's not 19 because we took one away from the whole number. It's 18. Minus, and the second fraction, we don't need to do anything to that. Now we just do some simple subtraction. 15/12 minus 8/12. Well, 15 minus 8 is 7. And then in the whole numbers, 18 minus 15 is 3. So my final answer, best possible answer, is 3 and 7/12. That can't be simplified. That's as good as it can get. So pay attention to when the subtraction looks like it's not going to work out so well. This is how you subtract. You have to borrow. Our third example, we're going to do a simple addition problem just so you can see it. I'm going to say it so many times it's going to drive you nuts, but the first thing you got to do is make sure you have common denominators. So sevenths and halves, or over 2, I need to make them both into 14ths. That's the common denominator, the easiest one at least. So first fraction, I'm going to multiply by 2. That's going to come to 5 and 12/14, plus, because we're adding this time, 9 and 7/14. Those fractions, you can see how I got there. I multiplied. And now I'm just going to add. So 12 plus 7 is 19. And 5 plus 9 is 14. So the whole number is 14. And the fraction, now let's look at this fraction real quick. 19/14. What type of fraction is that? This is an improper fraction. Improper because the top number, the numerator, is larger than the denominator, the number on the bottom. And we don't want that. We want to put this fraction into proper form. A proper fraction is one where the numerator, the top number, is smaller than the denominator. So to do that, how many times can 14 go into 19? It can go in 1 time. 14 can go into 19 once. And what's left over after 14 has gone into 19? Well, there's still 5 left over. So to change an improper fraction into a mixed number, you ask yourself, how many times can the denominator go into the numerator? In this case, it can go in 1 time. 14 can go into 19 once. And there's 5 left over after that. So 19/14 is the same as 1 and 5/14. And now I'm going to rewrite this final answer just a little bit differently. Instead of 19/14, I'm going to use 1 and 5/14. So my whole number goes from 14 plus the whole number 1 here to 15. And 19/14, the leftover part, was 5/14. This answer is correct. This answer is written in simplified proper form. This is the best possible way to write the answer. This is how most teachers, if not all, prefer to see your fractions written. So try to make that the habit if you can. Make sure it's simplified and no improper fractions. All right, I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do a word problem because I did assign you 2 word problems today. And look, the only challenging part of word problems is figuring out what it's asking. What operation does it want you to do? Once you know the operation, it's just a matter of doing a problem like this or this. So let's figure out the operation here. It usually takes Josh 2/5 of an hour to ride his bike to work. But on Monday, his bike was broken. So he took the bus to work, and that took 5/8 of an hour. How much longer was it to take the bus to work? So how much longer? That's another way of asking, what's the difference? What's the difference between taking the bus and riding the bike? And difference is a fancy word for subtraction. When you find the difference between something and something else, you subtract the two. So how much longer was it to do one versus the other? Well, let's find the difference between 5/8 and 2/5, and we'll find out how much longer it was. And subtracting fractions, we can do that lickety-split. So 5/8 minus 2/5, I need common denominators. I think that the best thing to do here is just multiply this by 5 and multiply this by 8. That's going to give me common denominators of 40. So I'm going to have 25/40 minus 16 over 40. And the final answer here, 25 minus 16 is 9. Denominator just stays the same, and you can't simplify that. So to answer the question, it was 9/40 of an hour longer to take the bus to work as opposed to his typical bike ride to work. So as you're doing your word problems today, pay attention to what it's asking. And the first thing you should do is don't do any math. Take the time to just ask yourself, all right, what operations do I have to do? So set yourself up with the operations. Then fill in the numbers, and it's not a word problem anymore. Once you know what to do, what operations to do, it's just numbers. Don't worry about the words. We will be having a Google Meet, so if you'd like to join, that'll be happening at 10:30. You can get help with this work. We can talk about yesterday's work, whatever you need. Just come prepared to ask questions and we'll help you out. Otherwise, good luck doing your work today. Have fun doing math, and I hope you do other fun things other than math today. So enjoy your day. Bye-bye.